Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you my take on the quarter drawer, or the half drawer, whatever you want to call it these days. There's a number of videos out there. I've watched them all, and I'm going to try and do one myself, and hopefully hit upon some of the things that maybe some of the other people missed. This is going to be as extensive as I can get it. I'm going to do this in one take, so if it works out, great. If not, life goes on, we'll just have to put up with it. So this is I think half is a better description for this, because you're using exactly half measurement of whatever the measurement is of your product, and I'll show you that. I'm going to give you some tips, show you some things I did, some things not to do, and we'll just kind of roll with it, and I'll try to give you as much information as I possibly can. It might not be in the perfect order. I don't rehearse these, and there's no script, so we're just winging it, and relax, and it'll just go the way it goes. Welcome to my place. This isn't my shop. It looks like my shop right now. This is an addition that I've been working on for some time, and I've got my wood department set up here. We're going to hopefully be framing this soon, but for right now, it's my temporary wood shop as I relearn woodworking from my high school days and see what I can remember and learn a few things, and we'll get around to framing this place. And I'm hoping to build all my cabinets here. This is my old Delta saw that I've been working real hard on trying to get dialed in. I got a new fence coming. I've got a bunch of different things going on. That's a whole another story for another day. You don't have to use a sacrificial fence for this situation, unless you don't feel comfortable with a dado stack. It doesn't need to get up next to the fence, so you don't have to worry about ruining your fence. I did this because, unfortunately, I have a bow in my fence, and so I made this up, and I shimmed it with a little bit of cardboard on the ends and whatever to try to get it as straight as possible. I got a whole new fence system coming, and that's another video in itself. So anyways, let me get started here and show you the best as I can, and hopefully I'll hit on some things that you've never seen or don't know about, and maybe a few other ideas. So for starters, you're going to need, of course, your wood. The wood's important. I try to I don't know how to even say this. Let me back up. I've discovered Baltic birch. I really like this stuff. This has become my all-new favorite wood, at least for this kind of work, making sleds and things like that. I think the reason people use it is because there's a whole lot of plies going on here, and it's strong. This is really, really strong stuff. And the project I'm using, we're going to work on today, I used a birch plywood I picked up at the box store, the big box store, and it looks like this. It's got a few knots here and there. It's kind of got some good character to it, but there's not a whole lot going on here as far as plies go, and I don't know if you can see it in this video or not, but let's see, how close can we get? The very, very, very top veneer, you can't even see. It's so thin. It's not the top piece that you see. It's not the top ply that you see, or the bottom ply that you see. It's even thinner. It's about as thin as a piece of paper. I wouldn't suggest building anything with this stuff. I don't know what this stuff is even for. I don't think I'd build a dog house with it. And I'll show you why here a little bit later. Here you go. Maybe you can see this, if I can get it up close enough to the camera. Where's that spot? Where's the lens on this thing? The lens is over here. See that? Right? I can't quite get it, but you can see how thin that top layer is. It's really thin. It's really, really, really thin. It actually looks better on the video there than it does here. Anyways, I'm going to build this with some scraps left over from previous project. I'll show you the basic layout and everything for this. The pieces don't match. These are just scraps, but you'll get the idea. And then after I show you what's going on here, we'll go over to my table, and I'll show you on a project that I completed earlier today. But like I said, these are just scraps, and I'm running out of scraps. I got a nice big thing of scraps over there, but everything's too small, believe it or not, just down to slivers. So anyways, what you need to do is basically start out with 4 pieces. You're going to have 2 ends and 2 sides. The way you cut these will make a little bit of a difference in appearance, unless you're putting on a drawer front, and then it won't matter a whole lot. We'll get into that in a little bit. Anyways, so for right now, I'm just going to cut on these, and then the way they work out, I'll tell you what's going on and how to change things up in the end. You're going to need, of course, your Dado stack. I went with Freud's Diablo. Apparently this is a pretty good set of dados. I'm not advertising this or nothing, but it goes up to 7/8, assuming your saw can accept that much. It comes with quite a bit. Comes with a whole bunch of shims and what do they call them? Spacers, and you got your normal chippers and your blades and stuff. And it gives you a nice breakdown of what to use to get what thicknesses, but they don't list them all. And that's where it took me quite a while. I've come to find that a lot of times the job you're doing doesn't take near as long as the setup. And the setup on this is quite extensive, really, when you get down to it. So for starters, you need to determine what your thickness is on your wood. This wood here, see if this will all show up. I don't know how lucky we're going to get. Like I said, there's no rehearsal here. There's no script. We're just winging it. So we'll just see what we can do. This comes out to 710, 710.5, 711, somewhere in that area. So you need to come up with whatever half is. Like I said, they didn't show it on the Dado stack deal, but I was able to come up with half. And one thing that I found is really handy is make notes, man. When you're messing with these dados and stuff, measure it and write it down. So if you have to go back and figure it out again, you know what's what. For example, I know that a shim is around 61, a blade is 0.19, a chipper is 0.27, whatever. And so I found that with this set, 2 blades and 2 shims comes up to 350, which is awfully darn close to the 710, but it's not quite. You want to get as exact as you can, or you're gonna have trouble down the line. So what I did was I found that using a 5/32 setup block, a 3/16 setup block, and you probably can't read this. This is a .08 feeler gauge. And I just put them all together and held them together in place to come up with my 350, or whatever it was I just told you. Anyways, half of what the thickness is of this wood. And it's important. I would suggest if you can go maybe 1/1000th over, it'll probably help you some. But not a whole lot, otherwise things will start getting sloppy on you. To set this up, I first come here with my setup and try to get it out of the way as close as you can. I mean, just right on. Just maybe just a hair over. You don't want to go under, that's for sure. But you want to get as close as you can. Just absolutely as close as you can along that blade. Just check it out, make sure that you just barely feel it. Just barely. And then when you do the other measurement, you want to go along the side here. You want to bring your fence in as close as you can. So these are they're just barely touching. You can probably hear that, I hope. So they're just barely touching. You don't even want it to move the blade. You just want it right there, okay? So that's why they call it the half, 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 or quarter, quarter, quarter. In this case, it's half, half, whatever, because we're using half the thickness of the board that we're using. So if you're using, you know, a half-inch board, you'd want to use a quarter-inch stack setup. Like I said, just a hair over, I think is most helpful after I've made about 3 or 4 attempts doing this. So you have that set up, and these are handy to have. So, okay, so there you are. You're going half your thickness and half your width on the board there, and on the fence, whatever, you know what I'm saying. So, get some of this stuff out of the way now. You're going to see a lot of things in this video that everybody else is doing or everybody else has done, and some of that stuff makes sense, and I've tried to follow suit with what makes sense. These make sense. These totally make sense. I would suggest if you don't have any of these, you get these. I don't know about that big honking one with all the bells and whistles and crap all over it, but I definitely like using this one. I got a pair of them for this situation. Don't necessarily need it for this job, and I'll show you why. Anyways, okay, so we got our front, you got your back, and you got your sides. So on the first board, I'll show you which I think is best. This is not a good representation size-wise or anything else. This is just scrap, and I'm going to show you the cuts, and then you can figure out for yourself why or how you want to set your drawers up or boxes up. So, for starters, we're going to make the first board. Call it the front, call it the side, call it whatever. This particular cut this one's going to have three dados in it. And it goes like this. Oh, there's something else too. You know, it would be best if you do this with really good plywood, like I showed you before, the birch. This is a birch, but it's definitely not Baltic birch. There's going to be some tear out, so you kind of want to think about it ahead of time if you're going to try and save the face grain on this board. I think for this situation, for the least amount of tear out, it's going to be best to make the how do I really want to do this before I do that again? Have that little problem. Oh well, I can't remember. I think the first cut you really want to do is your long cut. Okay, so let's do that one first. You can do your long cut. So you want to get right up there into that fence, get you a nice dado run through there. Some people call it a dado, some people call it something else, hell, I don't know. The next cut is going to be along this edge on both sides. taking my time on this to avoid the tear out if I can possibly help it, but it's not very, it's going to happen with this wood. Okay, the next board you cut a little differently. Once again, this is one part. It's going to be your back or your front, your side, whatever you determine. This is your first cut. Okay, the next cut, and I'm not crazy about this one at all, but it has to be done. And there's probably a better way to do this. I've seen guys doing this on the internet, on the YouTubes. You need to get a rabbet cut here. It would probably make more sense to make your rabbet this way, except then you have to change up the blade. The beauty about using this system is once this puppy is set up, you don't have to change it. And I would suggest not changing it until you're absolutely done, because you might end up having to come back. You don't want to come back, believe me, you don't want to come back and try and redo some of these cuts. But it is possible, but it's best just to leave this puppy alone. So this way you don't have to change the blade, because this height might not be right going that way. So I've seen these guys do it, and they come through like this, and God damn it, man, that seems dangerous to me. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good when I do it. Riding on top of a blade like this, yeah, I don't like it a whole lot. I don't like it a whole lot at all. So what I did was, after doing it a couple of times and having some really close calls, I made myself up a jig. I love jigs. And I just took a little piece of miter slot, miter bar, whatever you want to call it, and put it down, give it a little shot of hot glue, put this piece of plywood on it, and got it set up. And then I went back and put a couple of screws in it. Then I took this block, and I took a piece of my material that I'm actually using, and I stuck it against the fence, right? And then I glued this right up against it. And then after that glued set up, I used the hot glue because it's quick. I went back and put some screws in the bottom. So it's relatively screwed together. I'm going to make it so I can take it apart and move everything so I can do 1/4-inch board if I decide to continue doing this damn thing. But anyways, I made that so it can slide along here, or you can hold it in place. And I got a nice tight fit in here. Got a nice tight fit, which makes me feel a whole lot safer. And you could slide it along in here if you need to. So this is the way I suggest doing it. If holding a board on end like that scares you as much as it scares me, I just don't like this. Too much room to wobble here. You get a wobble there. That's it. The board's screwed up. It's not going to fit together right. If you don't keep it straight like this and you get a crooked cut along here, it's going to screw this whole thing up. So you want to keep this board down as much as possible and as flat against the fence as possible. And using one of these, there's just too much room for error and things to happen. Once again, if this comes out, your cut's screwed. So you just don't want that to happen. So I think this is a lot better. I think it's a heck of a lot safer. And so that's how we're going to do this. So we're going to make this cut on each end. And it goes like this. There's your rabbet. Okay. Now we're going to make that same rabbet on the opposite side. Okay, you know you've got your You know you've got your cut right if there's pretty much nothing left here. If there's anything left, like real thin sheet still there after your rabbet cut, then you need to readjust your fence because it's not cutting quite right yet. So then we have our third cut that has to be done on this, and this is where it's real easy to screw up. So we're going to make our cut on this side of the board, not that side. This cut goes to the other side. So your first board, all the cuts were made on one side. This board's going to get 2 cuts, but it's going to get 2 on one side and 1 on the other side. And once again, if it's done properly, you shouldn't have anything left. I got just a sliver there. That's not bad at all. Okay, so there's our boards. 2 of these and 2 of these will make you a box or a drawer. Now there's a 4th cut that needs to be done, and that'll be for your drawer bottom. We'll get to the drawer bottom later, but I will sacrifice this board for now. Let me just show you this. I'm sure you're curious how they fit up. This is where your drawer bottom is going to go in. Okay, that's why that one's there. That's why this one's here. The way these go together, idiot, it's going to be like this. This one fits into this one. Let's do it this way. Can we do it this way? I think we can do it this way. Goes in just like that. And that makes for your slot for your drawer bottom right there. And your side fits like this. Of course, if you did it, yours would fit like this and be a nice joint. If you cut your boards the same length. Okay, so now let's pretend that this board here is going to be the bottom board that's going to go in the drawer. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and waste this one off and show you this cut real quick. So this one gets a rabbet on all 4 sides. Always make sure you put this in the same way. Good. It's real easy to screw this whole thing up this way. This isn't going to look right when I'm done, because the cut's already made in it, but you'll get the idea. Anyways, that's what your bottom board's going to look like. You're going to have your rabbet all the way around. Obviously, proportions are all wrong because I made that other cut. But anyways, this is what the bottom would be like. Your flat and then your rabbet all the way around. So there's that part there. Now we'll go over to the bench and I will show you some further things I learned about this. Again, you can do this with any size board. Doesn't have to be 1/4 inch, doesn't have to be 1/2 inch. It can be whatever board you wish to use. as long as you make sure that your blade and your setup is exactly half of what your board is. All right, so let's go walk over to the bench and I'll show you what's going on there. Well, I was mistaken. I was going to try and do this all in one take, but unfortunately I had to get some pixies in the phone because it was running short. So anyways, let's go over to the work table here and I'll show you the rest of this deal. Oh, here's my router table project I'm making. Maybe I'll do a video on that later. I made the top and I'm working on the cabinet. I guess everybody on the internet has a router table project. And they also have a dog in their shop, so I guess I'm not much further off than anybody else. But let's see if I can't get it set up here. Camera while it's doing this. So anyways, let me just get it set up here. Okay. Now, hopefully this will work. All right, on to a few other things. How's that? That's good. Is that gonna work for now? Okay, that'll have to work for now. All right. One of the things I wanted to show you about this, using this crappy plywood. Here's why. I don't know if you can see this or not. Look at the chip out on that thin veneer that's on this. I'm not sure if you can see that on this video or not. Anyways, there you go. That's why I wouldn't use this plywood for anything, man. That first veneer is so thin that it just tears right off. And I wouldn't even want to try and sand this stuff. Again, I don't know what you would use this for. That was a brand new blade on there too, so it just tore it to pieces. Anyways, that's one reason I wouldn't use this stuff. Another reason that I wouldn't use this stuff is on these boxes, you end up with this little piece right here. This little piece where these two dados come together. And this cheap plywood, let me show you this much closer. I'm only going to do this once. Snaps right off, just like that. Okay. This stuff, the Baltic birch, good luck getting that to happen. It's not. I can't get that to break off. Okay, so that is a problem when using plywood on this drawer system. I haven't tried it yet on solid wood, but I'm going to bet it works pretty well. But don't do it on cheap-ass plywood because it'll just bum you out. Last night I was gluing up a box that I made for my wife, and that little chip came off as I was gluing up the box, and it ended up getting into, it wasn't a complete chip like that though, it was just maybe half that thickness, and it came off, and it got into the joint, and I was getting all glued up, and I flipped the box around. It's a little tricky to get these to line up as you're putting them together, and it was taking me a little longer than I expected, and as I tried to push it together, it didn't want to go all the way together properly, and I realized there was a piece missing, and it was in the joint, and I had to tear the box apart while it was gluing up. And if you've ever tore apart a glued up job or a gluing up job or whatever, you know it's an absolute mess. And I ended up it totally screwed up the whole box. Everything got out of whack, and I just ended up wanting to wail on it with a hammer. I did give it a whack or two, and that didn't help things either. If you have to beat the living crap out of these things to glue them up, you might need to look at making your dados and your rabbets a little thinner, a little thicker, a little wider, a little deeper, whatever. So that's why I feel it's important to get it set up right the first time so you don't have to go back and work on them or rework them. The problem with reworking them is you can get yourself turned around. I think it's best to get all your sides laid out and get all your fronts laid out and do them as a separate step. Do all your fronts at once and then do all your backs or sides at once. And that way you won't get turned around, because when you go back to rework these joints, you might forget where you are, and you might find yourself starting a dado where one doesn't belong or something like that, and it'll just bum you out. So I suggest getting it done right the first time and making sure everything lines up well. Another thing to remember, if you're going to care about appearances at all, is that when making these drawers, I would make this part a drawer front. I'd make this the front, and that way you won't see any voids in the drawer. You're going to probably put a drawer front on it anyways, but I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a minute here. The other thing is too, to remember when you're making your drawers, your measurement of your drawer, whatever this is here, we'll say this is the front of the drawer. This cut needs to be on the front if you're going to keep your width proper. Because when you go this way, you're adding a half a thickness to whatever that other board is. So if you decide what your distance is for your width of your drawer, use this cut for the front, and you'll have okay results. I don't have a matching piece here. So anyways, that's my little tip on those. That thing really just screwed me up so bad last night, made me sick. It was a really nice box. It was coming together just beautifully. And I won't try one of these boxes ever again with this crappy ass plywood. As these videos go on, I'll try and share little tips with you that I'm figuring out as I go. Oh man, still wearing these damn things. These are good safety glasses, by the way, too. These were $8 on Amazon. I can't remember the name of them. Made in Taiwan. Oh, this is Magico or something on them. This reminds me of what safety glasses should be. It's what I used to wear back in the 80s when I used to work in an electronics plant. I like the one-piece plastic ones are okay, but these are sturdy. These are real nice. They're only about $8, and they feel like glasses to me. Anyways, that's one little tip for you for today. One other little tip. Everybody uses carpenter pencils, and I don't have any laying around here because I don't use them much anymore. Carpenter pencils are just fine, but a regular pencil gives you a lot better line. I just find I'll come in the shop once every week or two with about 15 or 20 pencils. I keep an electric sharpener here, and I sharpen them up, and you can make a nice line with one of these, and there's no question about where the line is. You make a line with a carpenter pencil, which side of the line, that line could be 1/8 of an inch wide. So anyways, onward and upward, and let me get on with this for you. Coffee any time of the day. Okay, here's the bottom. As you can see, I've got the Rabbet run all the way around it. Okay, and I'm not beyond screwing up. I do screw up. The neat thing about these drawers is you can install the bottom this way, or you can install it this way. If you install it this way with the dado facing down, your drawer bottom will bottom out. If you do it the other way, the drawer ends up being the depth of your dado cut recessed up into the bottom. You'll see that as we go here. So anyways, there is the bottom. This particular drawer, I'm going to have the bottom go all the way down. That stupid little chip. We'll be chasing that thing forever. Okay. So, here's how the whole deal kind of comes together. Here's this piece here, and it slides right in there real nice. But depending on how you built your drawers, it will help kind of determine how they go together. There you go. There's a perfectly good reason why you don't want to go back and do rework. That little dee-doo does not belong here. Damn it. Oh well, it's just for me and my drawer, so I can live with it. So anyways, your drawer bottom goes that direction, and your Rabbet goes this direction, and it fits right in there just like that. Bada bing. Right? Let me get this out of the way for the moment. So, bada bing, one 2. Let's just do it this way maybe. That's probably how you'd want to glue it up anyways. I went back and made mine just a little bit looser. Because I found that as soon as you put the glue in there, that wood starts expanding real quick. And you might not get it all together before the glue starts swelling it all up and making it difficult to put them together. So anyways, the drawer bottom slides right in like that. Well, you can't see that now, can you? So anyways, your door bottom slides right in. And you'll have to pay attention as you're putting these together. Depends on which way things go, but you want to end up with whichever piece you make, one of these being your last cut or your last assembly piece, because it needs to just fit straight in. If you do it one of these, you got that dado at the bottom that needs to line up and it won't just slide together. So this goes together there, this goes together there, and bada bing, there's your box. And you can see the bottom is flush with the box because of the way I installed it. Next thing that's beautiful about these is when you go to glue them up, you know, you're going to obviously run a little bit of glue into your, I just put it in the dados. No reason to do the tongues or whatever you want to call them on this. I just did the dados, got them all nice and wet, and bada bing. And there was very little squeeze out. It's tough to get the squeeze out, so you know, if you make them nice and tight, it's going to lock anyways, and it's going to be tough to break them apart to begin with. So I don't think you need a whole elephant full of glue. And so that's what I did, was I just did the dados and pieced them together that way. And I think it'll work just fine. Something else I was going to tell you about gluing them up. Maybe I'll remember. But anyways, yes, when it comes time to glue these up and put them together, you only need to, hold on a second, let me grab something. After they're glued up, when you go to clamp them, you only need to clamp this end and this end. You don't need to clamp all the way around, because when you get these clamped, this clamp here is going to take care of all these joints. It's going to take care of this joint and this joint, and the same thing over here. This joint and this joint, so there's no need to run any clamps across the front or the side, however you want to look at it. And there's your drawer there. The thing I wanted to point out about these that I don't like, besides the little corner piece that pops out and screws you all up if you use the wrong kind of wood, is the side that, how do I want to say this? The side that gets the triple dado cut, the triple dado, is going to leave you on this side with these two holes here where that dado runs all the way through. So if this were your drawer front, you'd be seeing those dados running through there. This top one was the one I screwed up on. So anyways, you'd see the two at the bottom sticking through. I kind of don't like that. So I would prefer, in most cases, if they came out on the side. So you might want to think about that ahead of time. That's up to you. But anyways, there's your box. The best way to figure out what your bottom size is, that took a minute to figure out. But here's what you do. When you, I don't have my measuring Take care of it. Anyways, you want to measure from the outside of this dado here, the outside of this dado to the outside of this dado is your first measurement, okay? And your second measurement is taken from here to here, or in essence, whatever the length of this board is, the actual length of that board is. So, you know, there's the end of the tongue there, and the tongue there. So you go from the end of the tongue to the end of the tongue, and then from here you go dado to dado. But this one actually ends up being the length of the board, because all you did was take a rabbet out of that. So that gives you the dimensions for your bottom. You might want to do them just a hair thinner than the actual measurements, just to give yourself some room for glue. That was the other thing about the glue I found, is you need to leave a little bit of room for the glue so you don't have a whole bunch of squeeze out. But again, you don't need a whole ton of glue on these. So anyways, if you have any questions, you know, feel free to put them down there in the comments. I love answering questions. If you're nice about it, I'll be nice about it. And if you want to be a jerk, I can be a jerk too. So if you want to discuss this or ask any questions, hey, please feel free. I'm going to try and do a number of these videos throughout this project. And it would be fun to be able to communicate with you guys and get your ideas. And I'll give you what I'm learning as I go. And if it's stuff you already know, great for you. And if you don't, well, hey, then maybe you can walk away with some information that you didn't have before. Otherwise, there you go. There's your half by half by half, quarter, quarter, quarter drawer. Have a great day. Bye.